Welcome to Rick Rack Ruby. I'm Laura Cluvo. Today we will be making this winterly patchwork angel ornament. She's fun and easy, so let's get started. To make this winterly patchwork angel, we'll start with some prep. First, I have a 4 3/4 inch circle that I've traced onto some lightweight fusible interfacing. I'm going to use this fabric for the wings. Then, well, here's the body pattern. Let's look at this one next. 4 3/4 inches tall and 2.5 inches wide. And then I rounded off the bottom and then I tapered in. See that? There's 3/4 right there, so it's 1.5 inches wide at the top. And then I just cut this from some heavyweight non-fusible. It's just a stabilizer. And then this is 1.5 wide and 2.5 tall, and then just connected to make a triangle. And I cut this one from paperback fusible web. I'm going to be using these fabrics, these reds, for the angel body. This one for the little accent on the bodice. And then this one, like I said, for the wings. So let's start by fusing. I'm going to fuse this little triangle to the back of this stripe fabric. I'm going to align the point of the triangle with one of the center stripe here. I'm going to fuse it and cut it out. And then I'm going to fuse it to the top of the stabilizer. I actually designed this to work with 5-inch charm squares, but my charm squares have not arrived yet, and I was just anxious to get started. So I cut myself some 5-inch squares as we, to continue with the project, just to make sure it'll work. So I'm going to take one of my red fabrics and align it with the edge of the triangle. And then I'm going to sew it with a scant, when I say a scant 1/4 inch seam allowance, is actually just the width of my presser foot. I designed this to be 4 3/4 inches tall so that on the diagonal a 5-inch square will still cover the whole thing like this. But you do have to make sure you have this aligned and centered. Then I'm going to fold it back, and then I'm going to lay this one along the second side of the triangle and do the same thing. So this is stitched, and now I'm going to press it and trim around the edge. And you can see there's plenty of this fabric left over. I can probably get 2 of these from 2 charm squares. There we go. Now I'll take this second square, and I like these because neither one of them is directional, and so that makes them very versatile. I'm going to align this with the second side of the triangle here, and the second fabric that you use is going to show more. So this one is going to be hidden under here, and this one will show more. So whichever one you like the most, I guess you should use second. Anyway, I'm going to align this along the angle of the triangle, and I'm making sure that I get all the way to the bottom here, and then I'm going to stitch this, turn it, press it, and trim it. So it looks like this, and then I'll just fold it over, press, and trim it. That looks good. And now I'm going to do just a little edge stitch just to kind of hold these down so they don't accidentally flap in my way when I'm doing the next steps. Now I'm going to embellish these seams. Honestly, I've tried, I laid rickrack down, of course, and I did some lace trim and different things, but I really prefer just a little feather stitch. So I'm going to do a machine feather stitch here and then here with ivory thread. Here we go. When I was stitching just on this red right here next to the white, I did the center of the stitch over a little bit so that these little feathers, so that you could see them here. But then whenever I got to the part where it was the two different red fabrics and I didn't have to worry about the contrast, I just sewed right on the center. So that's that. That, I don't know if that was a good idea, but I like the way it turned out. Anyway, now since I have the ivory thread in my machine, let's get started on the wings. So I'm looking at the grain of the fabric so that when I fold it, it's going to be on grain. And then with a small little seam allowance, I'm just going to sew all the way around this curved edge. And I'm going to trim the seam allowance with my pinking shears. Now I've folded it in half. I'm going to draw a line with my disappearing marker and like a little plus sign, starting just about 1/2 inch below the fold, and then cutting through only one layer. I'm going to make an opening for turning. Let's see. So just snip, snip, snip. That looks good. I think I might trim a little bit more. I like the little corners to be really sharp. And then I'm going to turn this right side out. Remember, don't cut through the back. You're cutting through the front. Okay, this looks good. I use my chopstick to poke out the corners, and now I'm going to go over to my iron and iron this nice and flat, and I'm also going to starch it. Now I have red thread back in my machine, and I will add one of my favorite decorative stitches, a little scallop along the edge here. And then I will also sew around here, right sides together, the back to the front. I think I'm going to move it over just to, it's kind of to see if I could fit a second one here. I don't think I can, but I'll try. So I'm going to sew around the edge and then leave the top open. This is sewn, and now I will use my pinking shears to cut this out. And here is my wing piece. I have trouble with, I start here right on the edge, and then by the time I get around to here, I have 1/2 of a scallop. And I have a feeling there's a way to program that to give me a full scallop on the end, but I haven't quite figured that out yet. Anyway, I think it's fine. I have this cut out, and I was thinking you could just about fit a second one on the second half of the charm square, but of course it would fit better in this direction, but then the figures would be upside down. So if you use a directional print, then you're going to have to be careful about trying to get a second one from a 5-inch square. But if you use a non-directional print, you won't have any problem, because I think that would fit very easily. Anyway, I'm going to turn this right side out, and I'm going to stuff it. The angel body is stuffed, and I have a double strand of quilting thread, and I'm just going to gather up this top edge, just through a single layer of fabric all the way around. And then I'll stitch back and forth a few times and secure my thread. I have already prepared my faces. Let's have a look. Oh, they're just about identical. The instructions for the Rick Rack Ruby face can be found in my Focus on Faces video. So I'm going to squeeze out some hot glue right here and then press this onto the top of the dress. Use a generous amount of glue because it's really the only thing that's holding the head to the body. That looks good. Now I have a ½ yard of flat white lace. You can use whatever you like. I'm going to fold under the end. I have a double strand of white quilting thread, and then just, you know, loop to secure, and then gather up along the straight edge. I'm just going in and out with a little running stitch. There's nothing to it, there's no secret to it, just all the way along the entire length. There we go. Now I'm going to center this in the front and then join the ends in the back. The back of the collar won't show because the wings are going to hide it, so it doesn't have to be really neat. But I do like to get the fullness distributed evenly so there's not like a bunch of gathers on one side and fewer on the other side. I don't want to secure the sides because I like the way they kind of fluff up on the left and right, but I am going to sew through from the back to the front and to the back again. This way I'm securing the center and making sure that those gathers don't shift. And then I'll secure my thread and tie it off in the back. All right, let's make the hair. I have a 3x5 index card. I'm folding it in half, and then I'm going to wrap this yarn around the folded card the long way. So with the edges here, not the folded side. I'm going to wrap it, I'm not sure, maybe 30 or 40 times. I'm just going to go back and forth across the entire width. Okay, I wrapped it 40 times, but you can use whatever yarn you like. And just make sure you fill the card and that you can't see too much of the card through the yarn, and you should be good. Say this is loopy mohair that I got from Etsy. I'm going to sew across the center here, this way, with my sewing machine. I'm just going to put it through like this, back and forth, maybe 1, 2, 3. The more you perforate the card, the easier it is to remove. So I think I'll do 3 times. Here we go. See the perforations right there? There's a sewn seam. All right, so then I'm going to remove the card. I always check to be sure that the whole thing came out and there's no little remnants of card caught into the stitches. That looks good. Okay, so now this is a wig. So I'm going to wrap it around her head like this with the ends in the back and the center in the front like that. So I'll start by applying some hot glue from sort of like from ear to ear like this. It's ear to ear, but it slightly tips toward the back. Okay. And then the ends are going to join back here. So I'm going to apply some more glue right here at the base of the head, base of the neck. I think you could see me sort of stretching the loops. Just want to make sure I had enough length to fit around, and I do. Great. Now, if you use a bigger card, like a 4x6, wait, is that right? 4x6? Yeah, 4x6 card, and you can make longer loops. Actually, I have one like that. Let me show you. See, this one had longer loops. They were a little bit out of control, so I don't know if that was a good idea for this 1-inch face, but it still looks pretty cute. Anyway, let's get back to this one. I have a doubled strand of quilting thread and a needle, and I'm going to sort of like gather this yarn up into a top knot at the top of her head, and then wrap it with the quilting thread, tie it off. I know, am I out of camera? Here. There's a trick to staying in camera but still being able to see what I'm doing. Okay, then we're going to knot it. But before I cut, I want to go back and forth a few times. I want to go back and forth through the hair beneath the place where it's tied. And then I'll tie it off again. And I want to put it right here because I know, like above this eye, because I know that's where I want to glue her embellishment. And that way the glue will help to secure the thread. Now I cannot see what I'm doing at all. Let's have a look. Not bad for working blind, right? Okay, before I forget, let's put a hanging loop through. So I have a blunt needle threaded with baker's twine, and I'll just go through just a little bit below the place where the yarn is tied off. That's better. Okay. I like my hanging loops to be nice and long. You can always make them shorter. Okay, that looks good. I have wire and wire cutters for her halo. This is going to be the lollipop style of halo where you make a circle. How long is that? About 6 inches? Okay, about 6 inches. It's 20 gauge gold wire. 20 gauge gold wire. You know, make an X, kind of twist the ends together like that. Open up the circle. Bend this down so that it's kind of like a, for egg dyeing, one of those things for egg dyeing. Then I'm going to put some hot glue right here. Nice, generous glob of hot glue. And then I'm going to press that into the center right there of her top knot. Good. And then I like a little bit of embellishment, so I'm going to put a little holly sticker right here. I never trust the adhesive on the sticker, so I'm going to add my own adhesive, my own hot glue, and then just press that right there on one side or the other. Good. And then I also really like the look of a white bow against the red right at the bottom of this triangle. That's a little low. Let me move it up a little. Okay, that's better. And then finally, we're almost done. The wing piece gets glued to the back of her head. I think these wings are a tiny bit large for the scale of this angel, but yes, I really like the way that this scoops even with the bottom of the triangle. I like that. Now, I know that my designs have a lot of steps and a lot of elements. You know, we have fabric, we have ribbon, we have lace, we have stickers, we have yarn, we have wood, we have paint, markers, wood burning, wire. Did I say yarn? Embroidery, all kinds of things. And I like having a lot of steps and a lot of elements. But of course, you don't have to do all these steps. This one, I just used the same fabric, which I decided was dumb because when you could use 3 fabrics, why use 2? Also, I applied rickrack here instead of the embroidery, but I really like the embroidery better. You don't have to use a sticker, you know, you don't have to do embroidery. You could use something else for the wings. You know, you don't even really need this lace collar as long as you're really neat when you glue the head on. You know, you could, I mean, you don't have to use 3 different fabrics. You could use everything the same fabric. There's just so many options. I like to present you with lots of details. And then if it's a little overboard for you, feel free to modify. And we're done. Thank you for watching my video. If you're enjoying my tutorials, please like, share, and subscribe.